Glad to have you join us again on Hot Seats on Ogun State Television. Here we speak to influential figures, ask them pertinent questions. We talk about professional challenges and national issues within the purview of their resume, and we also profile, solution. So here we lay it bare. It's a old no bar, personality program. I am Moses or Jewumi. And my guest today is an accomplished entrepreneur, a finance professional. He has a solid reputation in investment, banking within sub-Saharan Africa. Held key roles at FBN Quest Merchant Bank and later led corporate finance strategies at Heritage Energy Oil Services. You can see that he is a man, of many parts. Bankole Habeeb Olugbile. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for honoring our invitation. BHO, I think that's the acronym my guest on Hot Seats today. But very quickly, let's get to say his profile. When we come back, the interview begins. And that was the profile of my guest, Bankole Habeeb Olugbile. Welcome to the show once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, what a profile. Investment banking, finance. You studied accounting in the United Kingdom, and you've held many positions. I think currently you're also in the fishing industry,
Of course.
The oil, sector, and all this you've achieved at a relatively young age. I would like to know, why did you leave investment banking?
Well, I haven't left investment banking per se, because once a banker, you're always a banker. And it stays true with you over the course of your career. So just to delve a bit deeper into my profile, I'm actually a chartered accountant by profession. Chartered accountant from the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, the ACCA, from the UK. Of course, worked as an accountant within a practice in London Bridge. It's a firm called Tax Assist Accountants in London Bridge, UK. I was there for a while. And from there, got bored of accountancy and went into the field of finance, which of course made me venture into the CFA certification. And I became a chartered financial analyst, the youngest in Nigeria at that time. And from then on, I started my career in investment banking. I came back to Nigeria, started my career in investment banking. And being in the investment bank then, I worked on a number of transactions, big ticket transactions, where we raise capital for companies looking to acquire assets, oil blocks, power plants, and also existing companies looking to expand their operations, their manufacturing operations. So our job is to raise money for them and of course advise them on valuation, on project feasibility and whatnot. And I saw a gap within the maritime logistics industry in Lagos because of our Papa is extremely congested. Yeah. So we thought of how do we move those container volumes coming to Apapa away from the roads to the waterways, which also made me venture into maritime logistics. So we built a jetty in Olugbile where we move the containers through barges, through the waterways. So once it lands in Apapa, we'll put them on barges, bring them to our jetty in Olugbile, and we deliver onwards to clients. On the back of that, we have a jetty where in the water, of course, we caught another bug, which was fishing.
Yeah.
How do we harness the riches of the ocean? As then, when we started the project conceptualization, we were importing about, you won't believe it, $1 billion worth of fish into Nigeria every year. So it was a no-brainer. You have all of these vast ocean resources. How are we importing this amount every year into the country? So that's when we felt that we should go into fishing. We did that. We acquired 2 trawlers. And we started our operation, and it was fairly successful. Of course, most businesses in Nigeria have their challenges, and that was fairly successful. So as you can see the theme in my career, you raise capital for companies, you advise companies on project feasibility, you advise a number of companies across different sectors, and we brought that into my own proprietary business, which is how can we enhance value within all of these industries that we've seen a gap.
Okay. Well, I will have to take those sectors, one after the other. But I'm still with investment banking, and investment banking often comes with certain, ethical challenges. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to compromise your values for a business deal?
Oh, that's a good one. Not quite. Not quite. The moral hazard we have as investment bankers, it's when we're advising companies, when we're on the sell side. And when I'm on sell side means you're advising a company who is looking to raise capital or who is looking to sell shares in itself. Like what is going on within the banking industry now, with all the public offering going on, the capital raised by the banks due to the capitalization drive by the CBN. So the moral hazard we usually encounter is where sponsors, owners of the company, are attached to a valuation figure that this is how much their company should be valued at.
Yeah.
And we have to defend that valuation, even if we don't have any fundamental basis to substantiate such valuations. Right? And we have to defend that valuation to the buyers, who are often private equity investors, who are often another strategic player within the industry looking to acquire. So that's really where the challenge comes in.
But at that point, how do you protect the buyer or the seller?
We're deal makers, investment bankers. We're deal makers. Because for us, if you don't succeed on the deal, you've not made any progress. Yeah. Like one famous banker used to say, you're as good as your last deal. All right. So if you don't conclude the deal, how do you call yourself an investment banker? So in that situation, we have to manage our client expectations and show them why they can't achieve such valuations that they're expecting.
Sure. Let's talk about you. Maybe we tend to talk about those fields later. We've seen some empowerment initiatives in recent times, and I would like to ask you, is this a precursor to politics?
No, I wouldn't say it's a precursor.
Because of joining politics?
No, I wouldn't say it's a precursor to politics. I mean, there are people who have been blessed with resources, who have been successful in businesses and have ventured into the act of giving. You're either a giver or you're not. Would we say Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, who have their own foundations, and other wealthy people all over the world who have foundations, would we say because of the foundation and because of their charitable initiatives, they are looking to venture into politics?
Well, this is Nigeria.
I don't know. I think what is applicable there can also be applicable here. Aliko Dangote has a foundation. Yeah. Would we say Aliko Dangote is interested in politics?
Well, I want to believe you're a card-carrying member, of a party. So it's not even because of politics, because you're already in politics, as it were.
Of course.
The way it is in Nigeria, you want to wet the ground.
Of course.
Is he as a way of wetting the ground? Perhaps I should put it that way in quotes.
No, it's not. Giving to the needy or giving to the less privileged. It's not wetting the ground by any means of the imagination. It's out of the benevolence of my heart and the little I've been blessed with, that I felt that we should give as much as we can to the people, to help the people. It's currently a tough time in the country because of the reforms, the necessary reforms that we have to go through. And seeing people struggle, all right, it's part of what has led us to bridge that gap right? To to help people as much as we can. So it's our foundation is not a precursor to wetting the ground for any political office or anything like that. Yes, I'm a card carrying member. My philosophy is every young person should be interested in politics, especially at the grassroots level. Because what happens within the polity or within the leaders that we've elected, it has a direct impact on our daily lives. So you can be doing whatever it is you are doing, and a policy from the comes up from the center of power, and it affects, impacts you, impact your education, impact your business, impact your way of life completely. So that's why I'm a card carrying member, right? Which is, apart from supporting my party, to also speak to our leaders, the ones I'm close to, as to how to alleviate the sufferings of the people.
And what party are we talking about here?
The All Progressive Congress.
Okay, though, because there are also reports making the rounds that you've defected to PDP. So I don't know how true that is.
PDP? Oh wow, that's not quite true. That's not correct. And the reason why that is not correct is quite evident. I in all of my political journeys, I've always been affiliated with the APC. In the last concluded elections, I did a number of initiatives, right, to support the party, to support our party, the All Progressive Congress. We took some of the youth leaders in our federal constituency to Lagos to do the youth walk with Sheyi Tinubu. All the images are there. We've supported the party at the grassroots level, at the ward level, interfering, doing different empowerment programs. And I'm not sure I've been seen anywhere in any PDP gathering or with any leaders within the PDP. So I'm very sure this will come from a malicious camp to be saying I'm affiliated or I'm a member of the PDP. Probably political traducers who believe that I'm gunning for an office that they are currently occupying or they may be interested in the future. Because I'm very sure if you go back to my hometown, I'm an APC member, card-carrying APC member, supporting the party from top to bottom.
But the state politics or the ground politics is full of murky waters. So how ready are you to navigate these murky waters, so to say?
When you speak about politics and murky waters, you assume that I'm gunning for office. Right now, I'm in the ocean, and wherever the tide takes me, well, I hope it's going to take us to a good place, which is why we pray, and which is why our religious and go to church. But point is, yes, politics can be murky, and for me, it is when you have a guiding principle, and you don't bend your principles, that people will know you for who you are and would like to affiliate with you. So the dirty politics being played, dirty politics is not just being played here, it's also played in the US. We just watched the presidential debate between Trump and Kamala Harris. And you could see the dirty politics in there after the interview. Different accusations saying one party had questions, one party was more prepared, the other party was not. So, I mean, that's politics all over the world.
That's politics driven by rhetorics.
Okay.
Unlike here, our politics is not so much driven by rhetorics. That's why a candidate would say, oh, I'm not going for debates, and nothing would happen. So I think that's a stark difference between our politics and their own politics.
No, you make a very good point, especially on the point of debate and leaders being accountable, or aspirants or candidates being accountable. And if you've noticed, over the last 2-3 election cycles, the bulk of the voting public is the youth. And these are people below the age of 35, below the age of 40. And these guys are beginning to, and also the upcoming, the children who are becoming adults, who are becoming eligible voters. These guys are the guys that's going to determine who's going to sit in the office. You can see what happened in the last election, the success the Labour Party had in some states. And all of those success was fueled by the youth. And in the next 4 years, we have people at the age of 14, at the age of 16, that will be joining the eligible voting population. And these guys are looking to hold their leaders accountable. The Labour Party they pushed a very strong social media campaign, right, showing the accountability of their leaders. I mean, we can't verify all of that, all of the statements that were made. But these guys are the guys that's going to determine the next voters. So for us within the All Progressive Congress, my expectation is that we become more accountable to the people. We speak to the people, we connect to the people, connect to the grassroots, and really tell them the kind of policies that we have that is going to better their lives. Because at the end of the day, every individual is looking for a better life. So on the issue of debate, I would implore our leaders that definitely they should put themselves up for debate. Because that is the way that these people can trust them and believe that they will do some of what they've promised to do.
Okay. So you did say the other time that, these are necessary reforms. We know that Nigeria is currently battling, surging, inflation. You're a financial expert, a chartered accountant for that matter. You've worked in the financial circle. Now, looking at some of the reforms we've had, last year, the president, in his inaugural speech, said subsidy is gone. While some would say, why not remove the subsidy in phases, a few subsidy in phases? Look at what we have now, the regulation, which has not really worked. So we've not reaped the fruits. Or now we're talking about the devaluation of the naira. But let's start with the fuel subsidy removal. Shouldn't it have been in phases?
For reforms like this, reforms are never easy. All over the world, reforms are never easy. Greece went through it over the last 5 years or so. Argentina is currently going through it. Venezuela, I'm not sure.
Argentina has made some gains.
They've made some gains, yes, but they're still going through those painful decisions that the president has made, the new president has made. Venezuela, they're trying to push on reforms there. Zimbabwe too. So reforms are never easy. They are tough, hard decisions that need to be taken by a very strong leader who care about the people. Now, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came, was sworn in and made the announcement that subsidy is gone, there was no other way. To be honest, there was no other way. Especially if you understand finance and a bit of accounting, there was no other way. We are spending much more than we are receiving. And the bulk of that spending is on subsidy. Should we continue to borrow to fuel consumption and not production? I mean, that was the rhetoric of one of the parties that campaigned for the presidential election, from consumption to production, right? And this is what the president has done. He came in, removed subsidy, by subsidizing consumption, but also looking to subsidize production.
But subsidy wasn't totally removed. I mean, looking at the scheme of things, it's as if government still pays subsidy till date. By the time you compare the landing cost now to the cost of pump price, you want to say, there's still some differential that the government seems to be covering.
So which is the other question I push to the other guys or the other camp who says, or the school of thought who says subsidy should be removed in phases. Now, if you know that subsidy is still there, why are you at loggerheads with the current administration? Because it now looks as if subsidy has been removed in phases. Now, if you look at it, let's look at what makes up petroleum prices, or what makes up petroleum prices. Crude oil, cost of refining, cost of transportation. Now, crude oil prices have stayed sky high for a while now, since the Ukraine-Russian war. That's why we saw the major jump from 50s level to about 70, 80, even went as high as 100 at some point. And it has stayed there. Now, when you remove subsidy, right, if oil price increases, of course, fuel prices would also increase. But if we remove subsidy and peg to the price of petrol at 600, if crude oil price increase, that should also increase. But to the average Nigerian, once subsidy has been removed and a price point has been established, they expect that price point is the real price of petroleum products, or the real price of PMS. But it is not. There are other factors that affect these prices. The dollar, for example, the dollar-naira exchange rate, that's a major one that also affected it. Yes, after subsidy was removed, I think then the rate was about 700.
Yeah.
And now the rate is about 1,500.
1,600.
1,600 now. All of that impacts the retail price of the product.
Yeah. But the naira was devalued from 700 naira to $1 is now 1,600 naira to $1.
Again, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's also a subsidy on the exchange rate. You can't continue to subsidize the exchange rate. You'll be borrowing, or you'll be using your the foreign reserves to fully support or to manage the exchange rate so that it stays within a particular band. And if you look at the bulk of who does those or keeping the exchange rate artificially low impact, It's the round trippers. It is the people within the system who have a way of making money from the exchange rate being artificially low and having, I think then when they had this differential exchange rates where different kinds of people could get exchange, could get dollars at different prices. So these guys, of course, took advantage of the system and were able to round trip this money and make insane amounts of money on the back of this, right? So it was in the interest of Nigeria for the president to try to float the currency. Now, what we have now, yes, is a managed float because you can't really leave your currency to go haywire because that's the job of the CBN. The CBN is to manage, of course, manage the exchange rate also. So it's a managed float that we have. And right now, I'm not sure we're spending so much in defending the Naira. But let's look at the positives, not the negatives. There are a lot of positives that's coming.
Well, maybe people want
people just decided
their life to be better.
They just decided not to focus on the positives.
These are the positives that Nigerians
I'll give you some
want.
of the example of the positives. We have a trade surplus. This came out, what, a week, 2 weeks ago? We have a trade surplus, 6 trillion or so trade surplus. You know what the trade surplus is? Our exports versus our imports.
Yeah.
Surplus. What does that mean? Excess FX. Excess dollar in our system. Ideally, theoretically, that's what it should mean.
Yeah, but does it mean we have excess dollar in our system?
Well, based
now there's 1,600 naira, per dollar, and there are even, conjectures out there that it could get to 2,000 naira per dollar. So does that show we have excess dollars in our system? If there's excess dollars in our system, then the naira should appreciate massively.
Okay, so 2 things here. And I'm no expert in economics. I'm an accountant, not an economist.
Yeah, well,
and I'm a deal maker, not an. But I'll tell you a few things. Your exchange rate is not a benchmark to determine the economic prosperity of a country. It has never been. Right? The exchange rate is being managed such that entrepreneurs, business people, can relatively predict their operations. Right? What will affect the exchange rate is if we can substitute all of our imports or the bulk of our imports for more production.
Yeah.
Because what's fueling the exchange rate? If you look at everything you're wearing, I'm very sure is imported. That's part of what is fueling the exchange rate. Now, are we creating an enabling environment to allow local businessmen go into the cotton industry, to go into cotton plantation, from cotton plantation to processing, from processing to making fabrics, from fabrics to tailoring, which will lead to everything that we're wearing? Are we creating an enabling environment? Over the last administration, yes, we've seen some initiatives by the last administration on agri, creating different CBN loans to support the agri sector. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done quite a number of things also to ensure that we have an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. If we start going into them, picking them sector by sector, I'm not sure we'll be able to finish within the time we have.
Businesses to thrive. Businesses want an enabling environment where there's enough forex in the system, where the energy cost is relatively low, so particularly for the MSMEs, so that they can do business and make profits. So this seems to just be theories. People want their life to be better. People want inflation to come down so that they can buy more, increase the purchasing power of the masses. So if you can do that, then people can now say, yes, whatever the current administration is doing is working for us. But anything short of that, and we're still saying positive, these are the positive Nigerian masses want to see.
Like I said, reforms are quite difficult, right? There are no easy reforms all over the world. And when the president got in office, the state in which they met the country wasn't in a good state, without saying too much. And some of the reforms he has pushed is to try to rebalance the country and set us on a path of prosperity. He keeps saying it, but I'm not sure Nigerians believe him when he says he's trying to reposition the country for a path of prosperity.
Because Nigerians say, okay, how long will this take?
And that is what he's trying to do. Say, nobody holds a magic wand to fixing Nigeria. Nobody. I don't. You don't. Best economics in the world don't. It takes time. And there are plenty of actors, both state actors and non-state actors, that before some of those policies can be passed or they will allow those policies work, it has to be in alignment with their interests. So there are just so many things, right, within the system that we're just maybe oversimplifying the issues. But no, there are much deeper things within.
But But if you ask Nigerians to tighten their belts, Nigeria also expects, the government to cut the cost of governance. So are we now will justify spending 21 billion naira on VP's residence, buying a new presidential jet, billions of naira on National Assembly clinic. So it's like you are telling people to fast, but you are feasting. So that's how it looks.
For our president, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to travel on the jet owned by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I don't think that's too much of an ask. Our presidents cannot fly commercial. Or do we expect our presidents to be leasing jets? Of course not. If the jet, or if the presidential jet is due for a replacement, we should replace without thinking twice.
And even if we don't have the money,
we are if we don't have the money, of course, that's where we can structure a deal with the aircraft manufacturer, right? Where we pay overtime, but we can't allow the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to fly commercial. So when people say we are replacing the jet of the president, to me, I don't see anything wrong in that, because what is the alternative? Our president doesn't go to China, doesn't go all over the world to strike trade deals, to meet world leaders. But what is the alternative? Fly commercial? Lease jets? Come on, now people should be more.
And 21 billion on VP's residence.
Well, I don't know the actual figure for the VP's
Okay,
residence.
it's 21 billion naira.
For renovation of the
Yes.
VP's residence. But I'm very sure our leaders would have meticulously thought of the rationale behind such renovations. I mean, if the VP doesn't have an official residence to stay and is conducting national matters within his private residence, I think we should all be worried.
Well, his predecessor didn't sleep on the streets. So I said there's no official residence. There's always a residence. Maybe the government just felt something lavish. Something...
No. Like I said, this could be for security reasons. It could be that because we see it as the VP's residence. The VP has staff. He has special advisors. He has his own cabinet. Right? There are some ministries or some agencies that report directly to the VP. I'm very sure these people also be included in that. Their offices or the office space will also be included in that. So I don't think we should just judge based on 15 billion or 21 billion naira to be the palace for the office of the vice president. Absolutely not. Let us look deeper. Let us take a deeper dive into, okay, this 15 billion, what are we actually, or 21, I'm not even sure what the figure is. What are we actually spending it on?
It's a whole lot, really. But now, you've worked or you are still working in the oil sector.
Of course.
This Dangote, NNPCL, I mean, when Dangote came on board, we felt, oh, it's a breath of fresh air. Dangote would be a game changer. They know the back and forth between NNPCL and Dangote, and now the federal government has intervened and they say, no, Dangote won't sell to marketers again. They will sell to NNPCL in the meantime. What's really happening? We thought the intervention or the emergence of Dangote would crash at the price of petrol. After all, it's a local refinery, and we are not paying for freight services. Just NNPCL supplying crude and him refining here. What's really happening? It seems to be so cloudy. Perhaps you can make things clearer.
Short answer: I actually don't know what is happening, but I can tell you based on my experience because I've financed refineries. Before. Now, how it works is an entrepreneur goes to say he wants to build a refinery. He gets the approval from the NUPRC, formerly DPR. He gets an approval from the agency, approval to establish, approval to construct, approval to operate. Now, when you are doing all of that, there's one major part of the refinery that needs, or a key part of the refinery that I need to solve, which is where do I get my feedstock from? And what is feedstock? The input, which is crude oil. And that's part of the reason why refinery hasn't really taken off as much in Nigeria. Where do I get the feedstock from? And that should have been solved at the conceptualization stage. Now, I'm not within the Dangote industry group or say I have inside knowledge of everything that's gone on. But most of these oil blocks, they enter into forward sale agreements with traders all over the world. And some of those forward sale agreements actually includes a financing term that those traders provide financing to the operators of those oil blocks. Now, these trade agreements can last for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, which means the key of that trade agreement says, you are going to offtake all the crude I produce for so period. And some of these agreements I can't really break. And if I break, there are very stern penalties to break some of those trade agreements. Now look at you establishing a refinery today. Where would you get the feedstock from when everybody's an industry norm? When most of the oil producers have already gone into trade into offtake agreements with these traders. So where are you going to get your offtake from? And I think that's part of what is impacting Dangote. The NNPC has probably got into trade agreements, offtake agreements with all of these major traders to offtake their crude for a while, for 5-7 years. I'm not sure what the tenure is. I've not seen any of those agreements. Now there's Dangote, who has built a 600,000 barrel refinery, almost half of Nigeria's current production. I'm not sure you understand the scale of that refinery. We produce about 1.2 million barrels.
Yeah.
Our prayer is to get up to 2 million, where we were. So with that, 600,000, Dangote is asking for 50% of Nigeria's production. Entire production, not just NNPC's production. Now, where would he get that from? I'm not sure if Dangote has also signed offtake agreements with all of these guys. I'm not sure. The last I checked, I don't think so, because all of these guys have those long-term offtake contracts. Then the next thing we're seeing all over the news is NNPC is not supporting Dangote. If NNPC has such agreements with those off-takers, it will be difficult to break those agreements without any major penalties on NNPC.
But now that the federal government has directed the NNPCL to supply Dangote crude oil and it must pay in Naira, have they broken anything? They've not come out to say, oh, we can't do that.
To be honest, all of those are pronouncements. They are pronouncements we've read, right, on different media outfits. We've not seen the details of that contract. We've not seen the details of the agreement. For all of these things, there's always a contract. There's always an MOU underpinning it. And where NNPC will get that from, I don't know. Which is why I told you from the start, I don't know. I can only tell you how the industry works. And how the industry works is you sign long-term agreements. Now, what even makes it worse is you may even have been, those traders may have even financed the oil company. I'll give you an example. I have an apple farm behind me. You're a juice maker. You come to me, I'm going to buy every apple you produce over the next 5 years. You're even offering me 100 million naira to go to plant my apples. Right? Of course, I'm going to pay back that 100. And you're also going to take all the apples I produce. Will you be happy if I just break that contract? Because I have another local apple maker. Of course, you're going to put in stern penalties. That will allow easy breakup of those contracts. Yeah. And that's how the industry works. And I think Dangote may have been caught in that web. I don't know what the fact is, but it may have been caught in that web. But we have a president who is supportive of businesses. The refinery is going to be a breath of fresh air. It's going to significantly reduce the pressure on FX, because 40% of our FX demand is to be from petroleum products, right? So if we can support the refinery as much as possible, that's 40% off the demand of our FX, right? And we have a president who sees this, who sees the bigger picture, who sees the bigger game, even if we have to pay some of those penalties. And our president is a deals man. That's one thing about our president, that we don't emphasize enough. Our president is a deals man. He's probably one of the greatest investment bankers ever known. With the way he's able to strike deals across all levels, politically, in business, I'm very sure he'll be able to sort out the Dangote debacle.
Okay, well, BHO, if you have an hour to spend with the president right now,
wow.
What will you tell him? What advice would you give to him? Because Nigerians could be impatient and they are saying, you know what, the last administration wasn't good as such. So this time around, we expected change. Wherever the change would come from, we want that breath of fresh air. And that's what everybody is saying. I mean, they can't wait for too long.
Of course. There's one thing you need to consider. We are one of the happiest people in the world, despite everything that is going on in Nigeria. Insecurity. Nigerians are one of the happiest people in the world. We're quite contented with what we have.
Contented?
Yes, we are.
With what we have?
With what we have, with our way of life. We are.
Well.
Now, my message to the president is very simple. He needs to speak to us more. Accountability. He needs to show us the plan. He needs to show us the roadmap. Because once we have a clear picture of how we're going to get out of these doldrums, Yes, Nigerians can be patient enough to watch it happen. And right now, I don't think the government is not doing a lot of that. Speaking to the people, speaking directly to the people. So it's more accountability. Show us the plan. Show us the policies. Show us how these policies will yield your intended results. Talk to us. Talk to the people. Right now, a lot of people don't know where we are heading. Only if you are within certain circles and you can decipher the effect of some of the policies that are being put in place. So it's more of accountability. Talk to the people. Speak to the people. Show us what the plan is. Show us what you are doing about it. Show us what you are doing for insecurity. Show us what you are doing for agriculture. Show us what you are doing about the FX. Show us what you are doing to businesses, education, health. Show us exactly what you're doing. How are you changing the game? How are you changing the landscape? How are you making our lives better? Show us the real balance sheet of Nigeria. That's one thing I'm not quite sure of personally, that we don't know what the true balance sheet of Nigeria is. I hope it's not as dire as I imagine it to be. Show us the true balance sheet. Once we see the balance sheet of Nigeria, then we can understand the reason why you told us subsidy is gone. And we'll support you with it. Some of us that know, yes, we are supportive of the president's policies. But I'm just one in 200 million people. We need a lot of people within the government to be able to talk to the people, to be able to show us the roadmap.
Would you advise him to reshuffle his cabinets?
Oof. I mean, within his cabinet, I think there's somebody appointed as the coordinating
Minister.
I think essay on coordinating. I'm not sure what the function is. And within that function, it was actually a lady I met on the plane, Mrs. Hadiza Bala Usman.
Yeah.
I met her on the plane. I think my flight to Abuja sometime. And we're just discussing about Nigeria economic policies. And part of what we discussed was the ministers would have a scorecard. And it's on the basis of those scorecards, they're going to determine which minister is doing well and which minister is not. So if the scorecard has been designed to appraise each minister, it's like you on your job. If you have a performance appraiser and you don't go above 50, if 50 is passed back, you don't go above 50, then yes, a query will be sent to you to improve performance, or they exit you out of the organization. And I think it's the same thing they're trying to do with the ministers. This is your portfolio. This is what we expect from you. If you haven't lived up to expectation, yes, questions need to be asked. What are you going to do to turn it around? Or should we look for someone else to be able to do what we intend or do what we expect the ministry to do? So on reshuffling the cabinet, I would say yes, they should go through their scorecard, appraise the ministers. Ministers that have done well, praise them. Of course, push them to do better. Ministers that haven't done well, find the reasons why they're not doing well, support them. Because I'm very sure the ministers are...
Support or change?
Support. It's not all the time when something goes bad that you just change, right? They said, "Oribibe koni ogun orififo." You don't just cut off the neck because you have a headache. Yeah. Find out the reason why you have the headache. See if you can manage it. Yes, there are sometimes you have to amputate yourself, right? But when you are going to amputate, it's when you know that the entire arm is completely bad. So you find out the reason why they are not performing. Is it that you don't have enough support from the presidency? Is it that you don't have enough support from the ministries? Because the minister is just one person. There's the entire machinery of the ministry that is under them. The permanent secretaries, the directors, assistant directors. There's that entire organization. And trust me, if they don't support the minister cannot do anything. Yes, that's civil service for you.
Okay. Now there's a Ministry of Blue Economy, which you operate. But we've not had much. We've not really seen much. But as a player in that sector, do you think a lot has been going on?
I mean, behind the scenes, yes. A lot has been going on behind the scenes. What really is blue economy? It's maritime, right? And maritime includes transportation, right? The businesses on the water, which also includes fishing. So for us within the fishing industry, we've gotten some bit of support. We've gotten some support. I mean, the minister has been very, very collaborative with us, supported us, created different roundtable discussions with players within the fishing industry to see how the ministry can support our businesses. Also within the ports, right? Things they've not gone worse, right? But there are a lot of policies behind the scenes that the minister is enacting to ensure that we we don't just continue to operate efficiently, but it becomes a source of major earner to the federal government. Because the Ministry of Blue Economy is a gold mine, is a place where the federal government can earn significant revenues from. And I think it's that repositioning and rebalancing of the ministry that the minister has done within the last 1 year to rebalance the ministry to be a commercially driven ministry. So that's why I say a lot that's going on behind the scenes, which I can't speak of. But very soon we'll soon start to see the yield of
Now, you are
such
a chartered
policies.
accountant, so let me
Yes.
drop some figures now. Nigeria's total public debt is now 121.67 trillion naira.
Okay.
That's 91.46 billion dollars, according to the debt management office.
DDMO, mhm.
Is this a debt problem? Because the last administration borrowed, Nigeria cried, there was an outcry, we are borrowing too much. But even the current administration, they have also been borrowing. And most times, when we borrow, let's spend on capital projects. But we don't see more of that. It's more of, it appears we are borrowing and spending on recurrent expenditure. This seems to be a problem. But I'm not a financial expert here. You are the accountant. Is this a debt crisis or a debt problem? Should we be scared?
I'll give you a very short answer to that. Short, straightforward answer to that. Debt is good. In the finance textbooks, according to Modigliani and Miller, write that down. It tells you, if possible, borrow up to 99.9% in your capital structure to run a company. Because if you look at your cost of financing, debt is the cheapest.
But now that we're using almost our revenue to service debt,
So hold on,
is that good
I'm
too?
coming back to that just I'm just showing you the concept.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So when you're trying to finance anything, use debt. All right, as much as you can, because it's the cheapest source of it's the cheapest cost of capital you can get that is out there. Now, bringing it to Nigeria, yes, the debt at an all-time high. The skill for the presidency is to channel this debt or any new debt into infrastructural development that will yield return in the medium to long run that can pay back the debt. Now, if you take debt to pay salaries, that's a very bad one because that hole will continue to widen, that our lenders won't be able to lend us money again because it will get to a point where we won't be able to pay. So basically it's to move all of that debt, move the utilization of that debt from recurrent expenditure more into capital expenditure. Capital expenditure that will yield enough dividends that is going to pay back the debt. Borrow to support productivity. Borrow to support productivity. Borrow to build roads into farmlands, into farming settlements. And you see how the productivity of the farming settlements will increase. All right? Borrow to improve the transmission network of our power sector, because part of the bottleneck within the power sector is the quality of the transmission lines. Borrow to upgrade the transmission lines. Borrow to digitize the entire electricity sector, of the entire power sector, to digitize it such that we minimize theft and losses. And you see that we have idle production capacity, power production capacity of more than 10,000 megawatts, or probably more, 15,000 megawatts. This is about enough to imagine with the power we're having now. This is just for 5,000 megawatts. Now imagine increasing this power that we have that we're all complaining about. Imagine increasing it like three times. We almost have 24 hours light. All right. So borrow to enable that. So those are things that we can borrow for, that we can use debt for, that will have an immediate impact.
But have we been borrowing for that? If we have been borrowing for that, I'd say we've borrowed to fix our electricity and see how now we have 24/7 power supply. I don't think there will be an outcry. But it doesn't seem as if borrowing has been spent on those capital projects that could give Nigerians a basic social amenities.
No,
That doesn't be,
no, in
that's
all,
not the case. The only thing we can look at now, okay, maybe the real projects by the last administration can say, okay, well, that's it, that's basic. Yeah, at least people can enjoy moving from Lagos to Ibadan to, Abeokuta. But we need to see more of that. If we're to budget, okay, let's just fix all the federal roads, and we can see it. The roads are good. There won't be an outcry.
so to be honest, I've not tracked how some of those borrowings have been utilized over the last administration or this current administration. I haven't tracked that. But it's the principle here, which is borrow to spend on capital projects that will yield immediate productivity. The real project, yes, donkey hours are spent in traffic in Lagos. That's lost man hours. And we have to increase the productivity of every citizen in Nigeria. If you look at countries like Tokyo, countries like Japan,
Yeah.
Tokyo, those guys work crazy hours. Also in Europe, apart from France anyway, they work crazy hours. So each individual is very productive. So if you look at your available time for productivity, you sleep, an average individual sleeps 8 hours, you're left with what? About 16 hours. Within that 16 hours, your personal time, 4 hours. So you're left with about 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours to work. And we have to ensure that that 10 to 12 hours is productive. Because once every citizen is productive, that's how we can increase our GDP. Right? So borrow to enhance productivity of each citizen. So that real project, it depends on where this real project was built. So I'm not sure the real project you're talking about. But if it's a real project connecting Lagos to Abeokuta or to Ibadan, that's a fantastic project. Because I can work here, and in 2 hours, the same amount of time it will take me to travel from Egbeda to VI. In the same amount of time, I can move from Abeokuta to the heart of Lagos to work. That's massive increase in productivity.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Of course, even the real estate around the stations, the rail stations, all of that you see a massive upside on all of that.
Well, BHO, our time is fast spent. We've spent close to 1 hour, but we cannot but end this on that's our personal notes. You're in politics already, and I want to believe you belong to the youth category.
Of course.
I could remember years back where we came out, not too young to run, not too young to rule, where I don't know how far that has taken us. But when you look at today's youths, including yourself, will you say the future is bright?
Well, definitely the future is bright. We can hope, even if it doesn't look like it. We can hope that the future is bright because we have people getting curious. There's a lot of intellectual curiosity now within the polity by the youth. We're getting very curious. We're waking up every day. That's, hold on, these guys can't just continue to enact policies that's going to impact my life without me having a say on it. Which is why, with the advent of Twitter now that everybody has a voice, their voices can be heard. So for we the youth, the future is bright for us, which is why someone like myself is a card-carrying member of the APC. And we can talk to the youth because if the youth can relate with you, of course, they will tend to believe you. They will tend to believe you are accountable to them.
Are you a youth?
Of course I'm a youth.
Okay.
Of course I'm a youth. And which is part of the reasons why we're doing some of what we're doing. And on the political ambition, like I said, I've been an ocean floating, right? And we don't know where the ocean is going to take us. In future, maybe I may be interested in an office. For right now, from where I sit, the answer is no. The answer is no. I'm perfectly fine with my businesses. Only if we see the earnings of the people for better quality representation, for better quality governance, that I may eventually be interested in an office.
Okay. But for now, you just playing your role?
No, for now, we're just playing our role.
As a card-carrying member?
As a card-carrying member
of the APC?
Yes. Pushing the gospel of our foundation, which is to help the people. And if we have people that can partner with us within the foundation, right? We have the database of most people within our federal constituency, right? That we can impact the lives. So yes, we're also open to partnership opportunities within the foundation.
Okay, that's fine. But let's end on this note. You are into the fishing industry.
Of course.
I could recall that 2 decades ago, Nigeria had about 250 vessels. But now, It has been reduced to about 250 vessels. We don't even have a fishing terminal.
You've done your
Ghana,
homework.
Ghana has a fishing terminal.
Of course, you've done your homework.
So when I asked the other time that the blue economy, what's happening? We want to see this. Let's have more vessels. Let's have fishing terminals. So these are the things we want to see, but we are not seeing them. What's happening in your industry?
You've done your homework, I must confess. So a number of things. Yes, in the glory days, in the 1980s, early 90s, we had more than 200, 250 vessels within our ocean, and that has reduced over time. The reason why that's reduced is a number of things. Personal factors. People who just got disinterested in fishing. There's a notable family who made quite a bit in fishing and divested into other businesses, and that took their time off fishing. But for now, we are plagued with a number of challenges. And one of the challenges is a sustainable source of bunker supply, right? Because the fishing industry, there's a bit of a dislocation within the fishing industry. And that dislocation is the price in which we can sell the products to the public, and the price in which we buy diesel to run our vessels, right? Those prices are not, one is behind the other. So if the price in which I'm selling the product is behind the cost in which I'm able to run the product, I'll pack the boat. Or I'll shut down the operation in its entirety. So, and that's the quagmire within the industry. Yes, there are some specific factors like dishonesty of the crew. We have a lot of trade in the ocean, selling some of the products that they catch. And when they come back to see, the catch is not what you expect. So there are some of those specific factors. But macro factors affecting us. All of these diesel or fuel price increases. We can't increase the price of our fish products.
But fish products are very expensive now. Is that as a result of the importation or what's going on? Because from your explanation now, I mean, we also have and you explore, you sell, and perhaps even exports. So why is fish products so expensive?
No, it's expensive because I've told you one of the factors, diesel. Another is poor catch. We have a lot of foreign vessels in our waters who are destroying the biodiversity of our oceans with the kind of fishing methods that they employ. And that is where we're calling on the Navy to stop some of these foreign vessels within our waters, because our water is very fertile. But some of these guys have come with their fishing methods, they've destroyed the biodiversity of our oceans, which has led to poor catch. The other one is, of course, the trade that is going on. So the trade that is going on, the crew on some of our fishing vessels, selling the products offshore. So all of this has contributed to high cost of the operation, high cost of running the vessel, and which has in turn led to the cost of the increased cost in which we pass on to customers. But like I'm always saying, that cost is not enough. The true cost of fish in Nigeria, of locally caught fish, is about double the price. If I'm being honest with you. A kilo of croaker now is about 4,000, 5,000 kilos. If I'm going to actually sell that kilo to be able to match my cost and make a not so much spread on it, I'll be selling closer to 10,000 naira. But right now I can't pass on that cost. So we're just managing and getting by on our operations. You mentioned the fishing terminal in Ghana. Yes, I've been to 2 fishing terminals in Ghana. One in Tema and one in Takoradi. In the process of starting this business, that's part of where I did my research to went study the fishing industry in Ghana, both in Tema and in Takoradi, and it's a wonderful operation that they have there. We also have a fishing terminal in Lagos, Kirikiri 2 terminal, where that's where most of the fishing industries, the fishing companies are, and that's where they birth. But the commercial the gains that we have from the port, because very close to the port, that is eating into the terminal, because we have some of those container barges. They've turned some of those terminals to container holding bays, so which is disrupting some of our fishing operations.
But how do you now stay afloat if importation of fish products seems to, when you import, the products are far cheaper than the local caught fish products? So how do they stay afloat? People want to buy something that is cheaper.
The thing we need to be careful of is dumping, right? Dumping in economic sense, where all of these foreign vessels or vessels operating in the Atlantic Ocean, not an Atlantic Ocean, North Pacific, dump some of their products into Nigeria. If you look at it, it's a big industry for them. They sell $1 billion worth of fish products to Nigeria every year. Every year. And of course, that is going to get expensive with time because of the states where the FX is.
Yes.
So yes, we can only try to compete. We are not getting as much support. If you look at some of these fishing vessels operating overseas, some of them are being subsidized. There was a point within the industry, our diesel cost was subsidized. I think it was during the Obasanjo's regime.
Yeah.
Right. Diesel cost was subsidized
For
the fishing industry.
For the fishing industry.
Yes.
So,
and because of that, fish prices were artificially low.
Is that in the offing now? Is it
No,
something
it's not in the offing. It's something we are praying for. It's something we are praying for.
I mean, you as a major player in that industry and also a card carrying member, do you have the ears of the ministry, the Ministry of Blue Economy? Is this something you are pushing? Because, of course, it also starts from there. Your gospel of making lives better.
Of course. It's something we are pushing, but we also understand the finances of the country at this stage. That the government doesn't have very deep pockets to be able to subsidize different sectors of the economy. But the reason why we're also pushing is, the government is subsidizing production, not consumption. Right? If you subsidize also, we're able to produce. It should reduce the importation and should reduce the demand on FX. Because yes, that's billion odd dollars that we're using to import fish, which is dominated by non-Nigerians. The people who import the fish, they are non-Nigerians. Most of them are non-Nigerians.
But if they reduce that, then fish will even become more expensive.
No, fish will become affordable because we are subsidized.
Okay, subsidized.
Once our cost of running our vessel is subsidized, fish will become cheaper.
But that's not in the offering.
It's not in the offering. We are speaking, we are talking. There is a body, NITOA, which is the Association of Trawler Owners of Nigeria, which of course I'm a member of. We're speaking to the minister, we're speaking to the right people, our regulators, to see how they can support our business, to see how we can support so that we can feed the nation. There's an operation Feed the Nation in the late 80s that even the federal government brought in vessels and gave to some private operators to run so that we can provide enough fish stock, right, for the populace.
And maybe technology will also help. I don't know if there are electric fishing boats, so that you don't have to spend so high on diesel, on AGO. Is there any technological intervention in that area?
I'm here to see that. I'm here to see an electric motor that can power a 400 horsepower engine. Right? A 400 horsepower, 600 horsepower engine. I'm here to see a solar, a modular solar solution. Right? Because it has to be small to be able to stay on the vessel. I'm here to see that. So if that comes, yes, maybe that will significantly help us.
Okay. Maybe when you meet the president, you tell him this. But it seems the economic policy right now is not about subsidizing this, subsidizing that. Let's just deregulate all the market. So, I mean, you'll be fine.
Let's deregulate. Let's support businesses. Let's deregulate. Let's support businesses.
Maybe support businesses through grants and loans. I mean, what I'm saying, like you said, subsidy is not in the offing for the fishing industry.
I've not said that.
Okay.
I'm hoping it's in the offing. Yes.
Oh.
I'm hoping because we're appealing, we're lobbying, but I won't say that. But just from the president's pronouncements, that subsidy is gone.
Yes.
If it's gone on petrol, you assume, because that's the most difficult one to remove, you assume all other forms of subsidy will also follow the same path.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying that it may be a difficult challenge getting subsidy on.
Many thanks for coming on this show. Maybe subsequently in other programs, you get to feature also if you allow us.
Of course.
Yeah. So thanks once and best of luck in your work. There's no ambition for now. Well, everything you do, your fishing industry, your finance, and even your empowerment, operations, initiatives here and there. So that's the show today. My guest has been Bankole Habeeb Olugbile, BHO, an accomplished entrepreneur, finance professional, and we've been able to touch on so many areas. Well, I see you next week with another influential figure. I say to you, stay safe and stay out of trouble. Bye for now.